Welcome back to another episode of Gifting at Oxide. Welcome back, Sydney.
I'm Sebastian.
And today we're here to do what we've been working towards for a long time now, which is merging this PR. 15 days ago, 2 weeks, okay. And let's see what it takes. Everything is done, and we will just take a look at what we figured out last session and see if that's good to merge. Okay, you can guide me through it if you want to, or we go.
Yeah, for sure.
We go by this, maybe even, unless you want to.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't really part of the actual index from tree.
Sure.
But we can take a look at this and get it out of the way, so to speak.
So we can finally take a look at what matters more. So that's in repository here. So parses a revision specification and returns, parse a revision and specification and return a result containing the single included object represented by this instance or error if there is if it is a range of any kind. Yes. Or if the object could not, or if it couldn't be resolved, or the resolution failed. Something like that.
Yeah, true. There's multiple options, right?
Yeah, lots of. I mean, everything that is in the error really is the part of the problem. I just checked what's written here. Parse revision, turn it into a full ID. Turn the full ID to the object it describes. Also a bit strange. And turn it into the full ID to the object it describes. Okay, that's me not really thinking straight, I think. And turn it into the objects it describes. Similar to ref parse. Here we do it a bit differently. I'm gonna remove this because I never use this anyway. I never say you get a result because you see that. It's more like it's obvious. So what do we return? We return a single object ID as represented by this instance. Still kind of wordy, you know, I'm always for concise, spicy, to the point. It's the hardest thing to get right. This is not me being overly critical. It's just that's what I strive for, and I fail more often than I succeed. So it's an iterative process. Next time we come here, we might find something better. Yeah, so I just, you know, because it returns a result, it's obvious this can fail. And if they're interested in what can fail, look here. Yeah, la 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 la. Okay, I did not expect that. It's multiple schemes full of failure modes. So yeah. Really? Yeah, really. And that's
a lot.
So the ref spec can fail to parse. Then you have la 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 la, a bunch of possible errors. So overall, the amount of errors here is probably like 30 combined, 40 combined possible error cases. That's the beauty of Rust, you know, it forces you to make it all visible.
Consider it all, yeah.
Consider it all, yeah. Hierarchical errors. Something I always wanted, and now finally I have it, and you have to deal with what it actually means. The deeper the call stacks, the more it aggregates if you choose to keep all of it, which this library does. Okay, now we ref parse single or single not found. So let's see what this parse revision spec parse error.
I was considering if I just make it like a revision spec error or a parse error, but in the end, it is happening during the parsing step, essentially. At least if you call that function, it looks like that. So yeah, that was my reasoning.
So you combined this into one, which is the easiest way, but is it the right way? And the answer is no, it's unfortunately not the right way, because it's a shortcut that you take. This parse error, this particular error can never happen if this error is produced here. Because spec from B string, that's what produces the parse error. And that can create all of these variants, except for this one, which happens to be coming only from this particular method.
Oh, I see.
Now you combine two things that don't belong together, but everybody has to deal with it now, you know, even though it makes no sense for one use case. And this is why you can't do it. This is why this needs its own error type. But we can work backwards here and just say what it should be.
I see.
So revision spec parse ref parse single. So the rule would be ref parse single error, right? And then we go ref parse single errors. No, it's not a single. It's then, it parsed fine, but it's a multi-not ranged ref or something, or not single. Ranged ref, yeah. Finding good variant names is also hard, of course. And then we can just build it from there, see where the ref parse error is, and that's already in the right spot. I just don't, I mean, it is in a good spot, I think. Ref version spec parse error, it's in types. And it just comes in here, parse error. So here's the parse module. I'm a bit surprised I don't see the breadcrumb here. I would hope this tells you where the current module is that you are in, but this just shows you the impl. It doesn't really show you where you're in right now. That's sad, but I think that's the right spot. Here I would put pub mod. Oh, that's interesting. Error is public candidate info. Okay. Pub mod single. And here we put a single error. That is either a parse error. You can try to copy paste a little here. So that's a parse error. It's definitely error transparent. And we can convert from the parse error that comes from the top here to one of these, and we have the other one that is did I choose a good name? Ranged rev, I think I called it, without any information, because do we have any information? Can also start simple. Let's see if we can provide any information.
Yeah, I mean, the single gives back an option.
And in this case, there's nothing, but we do have a spec here.
Sure.
We do have an input spec that can be a B string, so we can potentially use that for error reporting, which is nice to have. Like if you don't ever see this error, you don't really care about the error quality, but it's usually really nice to be able to automatically see what you passed in and mirror it back to the user so they see. Because even though it's not technically super necessary, it's just nice. So starting with this is fine with me, by the way. It's just something to think about. Can you easily provide context? And here I think it is easily possible, because this one here we can keep. Let the spec be spec into, and now this is just all borrowed. And now this is borrowed into the ref parse function. And now we can put spec into. And spec should then become a B string. See how I'm too lazy to do white space even, because it's automatically done the next time I save. And it really makes a difference. Like, why? Why would you even hit the spacebar button anymore? And now...
Just don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's amazing how much tooling changed the way you work. And probably I'm late to the game with tools like Copilot and whatnot, who are supposed to do the boilerplate for you, but I don't trust it yet. But maybe one day, you know, it's actually able to do that. And then it's really like, okay, let's make an error and bop. And that would be cool. Like, I probably would not mind that, but I'm too lazy to try. Okay, then ref spec, which would be our spec. And I like to be lazy and just make it a debug print here so that you get quotes automatically around it. I noticed that there's a disadvantage to doing that, by the way, because if the spec contains backslashes, backslashes will be escaped by that.
Okay.
So on Windows, if you have a chance for path being put in there that have backslashes, then you don't want that. But that's kind of the only thing that I found that makes it a bit undesirable sometimes. Respec did not resolve to a single object. And that's, I think, that's how the error can be. And we trust, you know, now it's the question, like I changed a lot of stuff here, but nothing breaks. Do I run the right code or is there no test for it? Next question, do we need a test at all? So it's being called in some places. It's being called in a test here. And it's being called in actual production code for describe. That's also cool. It's more like, can we trust that code? And I say yes. Like for this, I would not write a test because it really is all part of the type system. It's fine. What you could do is run cargo doc. And see if the error type looks clean to you. Like if all this is where you think it should be. And that's just the final check that you do by hand. I think it will be fine. And we have this error. It's kind of interesting how it looks like in the docs, it looks like it's the same error, right? But it's actually not. So it could disambiguate here, but it doesn't do that ever, or maybe not yet, who knows? And now you see this is actually entirely undocumented. And one assumes, like whenever we do this, we assume that this is descriptive enough, which is something that one day might be changed. But yeah, technically you would have to double all the work. You explain that to the developer and you explain it to the user twice. And that work I don't do. So that's fine. But maybe one day somebody does. And that's in revision spec parse single error. Yeah, so seems like it matches. There's a bug.
That's wrong.
Okay. And that's it. That's better, I think. That's how this should be. And yes, these tiny little boilerplate errors, we need them because the alternative is undesirable.
I'm just trying to figure out why, like, I understand the difference, like creating an extra error for this. It's just for some reason, I don't know, I guess I don't fully understand it, or like I wouldn't trust myself to spot the same thing the next time. I'd probably again put it into or throw it into the same error that's already there.
Okay, then let's reiterate on what on the decision-making process. Whenever you add a variant to an error, And you have to be sure that this variant, or that's how I do it anyway. So this is how Git-Oxide does it. Make sure this variant can actually be touched by all the methods that produce it. And if it, or by all the methods that produce that error. And here that's simply not the case. So refparse, for instance, it simply forwards an error that is produced by this function. It's revision spec from B string, which is kind of like parse. So this is why the error is placed in that parse module, even though the function, the method itself is not called like this. So that might be something to change as well. Who knows? From B string could be parse. But yeah, as you see, this is an entirely different kind of functionality that sits on top of this parsing, so it needs its own error, as its error cases can't be hit by that other one.
That's interesting though, because I think that's maybe the fundamental misunderstanding that I have. So you're saying that this function can produce all of these errors in that, all of these parse errors basically, and you don't combine multiple error variants basically. Yes, okay.
You don't combine it, and I've been there, I've done that. And then I uncombined them because it just didn't scale anymore. All of a sudden you actually want to match on something, and then you realize that this thing has a million different kinds of variants, and you're just not sure anymore what can actually happen. Then you look at this, and do I have to handle this? Really? This can happen? No, it can't. But somebody was lazy there, and now you pay for it. So you just pay later down the road, or make writing solid code harder than it has to be. And this is why I just say, no, we create errors easily. This is also why this error now is the default, because it makes it easier. It lowers the bar of, of the overhead that you have. And that's clean, stuff that doesn't belong together. It's not together, but it's related. Like these are close, these errors. They're near, and making these little modules that kind of put the error in a spot that makes it nice to find, while reverse linking with the documentation where it's actually produced, all that helps you to keep these things together, even though you create a ton of different error types, obviously. Sometimes often actually one per method, really. And that's just the default now. That's how it is, because you need to.
Okay. That's not too extreme. Yeah, that's funny, because that's what I would have thought. Like you try to combine, and obviously do, but probably not. Yeah.
Yes, it's too extreme, right? I came from that position back then when using quick error, but I learned the hard way that it is not too extreme. Actually, you have to do it, especially in a library. There's either this extreme, like separating stuff correctly, or there's the other one where you use anyhow, and anyhow just puts everything into one error.
Throws all together.
And that's, but then you don't care about the individual variants. Either you're precise or you're not. And precision is for libraries, and for applications, it's anyhow. And it's known, right? This error for libraries, anyhow for applications. And that's how it's done everywhere now, because it makes perfect sense. It's just, it works. Even though it gives you some extra work to do.
Some extra code.
Some extra code.
Okay, that's good to understand.
The cool thing is, I don't even consider this boilerplate. Like this is boilerplate, let's say, right? Like defining this, but it's small compared to what you gain, because you also have to think about your error cases now. You have to think clearly about that, and you have to think about the user experience as well. Like, what does the user see if that fails? And can the user see that? Probably. Is that important enough? Ref specs. Oh, yes. The user constantly puts these in. So this is where you're forced to think about so many aspects of your program that force you into a different league of quality right out of the box. And that's just part of the system. You can't escape the quality in this project. It's just there. You can't ignore it. And that's the whole point, because yes, I want to be lazy. That's what I am. It's just, I don't want to work. I want to sip margaritas all day long at the pool. But we can't, not everybody can do that just yet. So
there's some work to be done first.
Yeah, we have to work for that. So yeah. Let's see if I can hit the pause button. And here's the commit message. Took me like 5 hours to write that, but you didn't have to sit through it. And this is done. Ref single, I think, is indeed now done. That's cool. I just copy this into new session notes, which we should not need, but at least then I can remove this one by one. Case insensitive paths are not a thing. That's just a comment. Improve the test case to run into to-dos like symlinks and so on.
Yes, exactly. That was the next commit, basically.
We can look at this commit for guidance. New error, use ref per single instead. Ah yeah, that's where it's actually used. Oh, okay. I missed something. So, did I miss something, or was this changed later?
Oh no, sorry. Yes, that was the next commit. Yeah, after actually implementing it, then finding where it's being used, and it was only in 2 places or 3, yes. And actually using that function.
Ref parse single. That's great. So now I just check, is this duplicated now? Because that will be the parent error of this one. Only single revisions are currently supported.
Yeah, here I kept the context because it was a different message to what the error throws.
Yes. And I like it because that says something specific. Oh, we can not do ranges yet, but maybe one day we can. So that was just my concern. Oh my God, I am picky, am I?
And for the other one, I actually got rid of it because it just stated what the error states, essentially.
Ah, yeah, cool. I didn't notice that. So apparently I'm picky, but also superficial. Yeah, need single. Cool. Yeah. That's very nice. Great. That's how to do it, I think. And now we are here at test fixtures. V2 all file kinds.
Yeah. So yeah, this basically just creates actually 2 repositories, one as a submodule, and then 3 files, one as a symlink, one as an executable. And those were all the different variants that we wanted to test. And I just added that into the round trip test, basically, that fixture.
Cool. I'm just trying to see where there's a submodule here, but
you don't have to explicitly add it. I found out you can just, like, if there's a repository within a repository, it just automatically sees that as a submodule.
Ah, right. You initialize the submodule, and then you initialize it, leave it, and then you initialize the top level. Ah, now I see. And then it automatically sees that as a submodule. Cool stuff. That must also have changed. Usually it did not add things automatically like that. But yeah, you must have run into this code, right? So like the test must have failed at some point with the submodule, and now it doesn't.
Exactly. I was skeptic as well at the beginning, but
cool.
The to-do actually ran into the to-do. Yeah.
V2 all file kinds. Here we are. What I really like is to do this, because this helps to avoid forgetting getting back out of that folder, and it nicely structures what you do in that folder. You know, I really find that easier to read and grasp at a view, because additional structure is added. So that's a subshell here, and these subshells, they don't maintain their state. It's their own state, so to say. So cd whatever, change variables, no problem. It stays within the boundary of these parentheses.
Try to remember that.
This is why it's done here too, you know? Like there's the curly braces, which don't do that. They keep your current shell, and that's just a way to structure output. Multiple commands can be can put their output into one place where you can then do something with it. But this is the big brother. It does the same thing with output, but also maintains its very own copy of the parent state. So here's a fork point, right? So the parent shell is forked here, keeping all the state that you had before, and then you adjust the state in whichever way you like, but here the process ends. And with it, all the state modifications that you might have done. And that's just a clean way of doing things and saves you from some headache. Okay, init. And we create a bunch of files, create a symlink. And subdirectory, add everything. Empty. It's kind of the initial commit, is it? Like it's not exactly empty, it's like initial commit, something like it. Because empty to me is a bit misleading, as I think it's not
That's
empty.
true.
Not even the message is empty, you know? You could, I think.
That's true.
But it's not. But the rest seems fine. Let's run the tests. Again. Okay. And everything works. Cool. And let's also see what changed here. Yeah, it looks so much better now.
Yeah, I refactored it a bit. Just to be able to see if something does go wrong, it just prints nicer error messages now.
Yeah, and use for each, which I for a long time thought it didn't exist, but it does. Yeah, I don't use for each, like kind of ever, but I can't really argue against it except for taste, like different taste, and taste is always being used to it, you know, like you're more used to it, I'm pretty sure, than me.
So you would use a for loop instead?
Yeah. Even though you don't need it here, like for loops don't give you any benefit over this, except for maybe being cleaner, maybe being more common, maybe. And I don't use for each ever, ?
Yeah, I use it in PathSpec.
I try to. You snuck that in and I didn't notice. Which tells us something, huh? I didn't notice that. Yeah. Do I want to let that grow or just remove it and say it's not usually used? Let's start with this one just to see how different it looks, you know? Let's just see. For AE in. Oh. So it's less, isn't it? And it's clear.
Less, yeah.
Like here we know exactly what we deal with in that loop, and then we see everything else that matters, and it's less noisy because there's less characters you have to type to do all the syntax stuff with the closure. So I think overall that's cleaner and easier to see. And I think this is always what sways me to not using it, because for input in this, no. And here we are. And the last one. Okay. So we have path spec to run, just to be sure. And yeah, it's just a plain refactor. Oh, always afraid of these. Because I can't push them to your branch, which I don't want to, right? But I am afraid. Because these, they are Git LFS objects, and Git LFS gets you all kinds of, can get you all kinds of trouble if you deal with PRs, and I'm just afraid of this by now, so I'm not going to push it, because it's also just a cache, doesn't matter, it's going to be regenerated. Even though ideally at some point we do have the latest version in version control, so that it actually does not get regenerated and CI can benefit from that. So I think I do want it. And I know it's going to be fine because I'm going to merge this today.
Yeah.
Because the... I hope I don't delete that file. I don't want to delete it. No, no, no. Want to trigger it to regenerate everything. And for that I had to delete the local caches. Yeah, let's just keep this factor. We also don't use for each anymore at all. Cool. Now for the next one, remove depth first traversal 2. That's just the to-do here.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Cool. And now one last look, because that should be it.
Pretty much, yeah. In the actual implementation, there was nothing much that changed instead of really just getting rid of those to-do macros.
Yeah. Improved test case. We probably did that, huh? I mean, it didn't. Where are these anyway? Here.
Should be, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I just made sure that basically all the code is being touched by the test, so it seems like it is.
Yes. And you know, we do trust, like we don't want all code to be test is failing, good. We don't want all code to be touched just so. We don't aim for coverage, but we aim for
sure.
clarity.
Where it makes sense.
Yeah, we just want to understand, like, can we hit this at all? Like, is it, what is this even? You know, this kind of thing. And then that's how we learn. And this is why we run this. And when it comes to file formats and so on, I think we want to be extra diligent as well and truly understand what we're doing there. That's all. So tests sometimes not. For the high level stuff, like in Git repository, Git ref plus single, you know, doesn't need anything. You can break it, of course. You can do it incorrectly, totally, but it's really hard to get that wrong. Like you have to try hard. One review and it's fine. But probably you want to have something somewhere breaking if you would screw it up. Maybe. But it's so hard. Like, oh my God. I can hardly imagine to break that, but... we believe Git doesn't do depth first. Okay, that's just a comment. And that's it. That's all the... Yeah, I can't push into your PR anymore because of this. Let's not do that then. Let's just see if it is truly ready. I already took a look before a session and I thought everything was as before or better, and that's good. Only this I found. I also reread because I was again like, what, find? Then I read find out of scope. And I really want to fix this because every time I stumble over it. But this is a question mark here, this expect, like, is this something we should take care of? And I think yes, because this expect, you know, it can panic. If the tree could not be found, that can legitimately happen, even though it shouldn't. And then the code panics and something crashes, and that's not nice. And the future of this will be that, or another question is, what happens when breadth first, like this find is used in breadth first, what happens if this one sees a tree that does not exist? Does it also crash? Does it also panic? And the answer is no, it does not. And this is why we can probably leverage the breath first error to just say this. And one day this will be a proper error, and then this naturally will also work for us here. So that's how this should be done. And again, no tests needed because all is caught in the type system. Okay, or should be fine. Let's see if Clippy likes it. Okay, or breath first error not found. OID into. It's called tree. And now we error out and everything is fine. We didn't do any extra work really. No custom error type. It still compiles. It runs. Clippy is Clippy going to be satisfied? Not so sure because there's a function call here. And it usually doesn't like that if it happens here because that function call is always executed even if you don't need the error. So this is why. So it's kind of costing you each time for no particular reason. And Clippy finished without barking at me, which probably means that it sees that this is really just very cheap or something. I don't know. But yeah, so if this is acceptable to Clippy, it's acceptable to me, because otherwise you have all this noise, which is not so nice, right? So, which is not as nice as this. So I think that's the way. And that's the last refactor. And with that, I am confident that this is done. Now with F, how is this called? Index from tree. Aha, okay. Yeah, let's not let people watch merging and resolving conflicts. So that's it for today, and I hope to be back for another session some other time, which is just as interesting and fun as this one. So thanks a lot, and see you next time.
Thank you very much. See ya.